Well, good evening and welcome back to another edition of the Brothas-in-law. We thank y'all for taking time out your busy evening this evening to join us in this discussion we have tonight, which is talking about a paraplegic being pulled out of his vehicle by the police in Dayton, Ohio. But before we get into this discussion, go ahead and hit that like button. I'll wait for just a few seconds here for you to go ahead and do that. All right. Good deal. Thank you for hitting it. And also hit that share button too. We want this to go out as wide as we possibly can and get into that algorithm. So welcome again, Mike. Hey, what's happening, brother?
What's going on? I see you. I see Tone. I see you, Tone. You logged in and you with us today. Appreciate that. You know, or that was 2:47 p.m. But that's okay. I see you.
That's what's up. Hey, so, this video we got here tonight, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Some of y'all aren't going to like what we're going to say. Some of you are going to like what we're going to say. But at the end of the day, the most important thing we want to be able to take away from this video is what could have been done differently on both parties' part, the officer and the citizen. And from that, we need to gather ourselves and say, okay, hey, if I know somebody who has some type of disability, this is what you still need to do. And we're going to look at the acronym of C.A.L.M, right? Comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. Had he done these things, would it have turned out differently? Right? So unless you got anything, Mike, you want to add?
No, and just folks, keep in mind, we want to give you our point of view that's kind of unbiased in a sense. Reasonable officers, if we would have done this, whether we think this was reasonable or not, you know what I'm saying? And if there was something wrong, like Corey said, if there could have been something that could have been done better, we'll explain that. We'll talk about that. You might like what we got to say, you might not, but we're going to give you an honest opinion of what we would have done or what something like this would have taken place in the future. So without further ado, let's get it on.
All right. So to set this up, this actually happened last Thursday, September 30th, which was my birthday, in Dayton, Ohio. Now, those of you who know or you don't know, you're going to know now, Mike and I are originally from Ohio. We're both from Canton, Ohio, but this incident here occurred in Dayton, Ohio. Right. So this is in our backyard, in our home state, right, that this occurred. And it was a traffic stop. Yeah, the video is 16 minutes long, but I started it right at about 4 minutes in, just get to the breakdown of the call. You're going to hear the, I guess it's like their public affairs officer give an overview of the incident, and then it gets right into the video. All right. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and kick this off. Share my screen. Boom, 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 boom.
On Thursday, September 30th at 12:27 p.m., officers were on patrol in the 1900 block of West Grand Avenue here in Dayton, Ohio. Officers had been alerted to a suspected drug house in that area, which they were monitoring for detectives of the Narcotics Bureau of the Dayton Police Department. Officers initiated a traffic stop on a white Audi that was observed leaving the residence. Officers approached and made initial contact with the driver, Clifford Owensby, who provided them with his identification. Officers took his identification back to the cruiser and ran his information. Based upon Owensby's felony drug history and weapon history, along with him leaving a suspected drug house, the officers requested a Narcotics Bureau canine to respond to the scene for a free air sniff on the motor vehicle. Officers reapproached the vehicle and asked Mr. Owensby to exit. Dayton Police Department policy requires that occupants of the vehicle to exit for their own safety and the safety of the canine officer to perform this free air sniff. Officers explained this policy to Mr. Owensby and requested for him to exit the vehicle. Owensby stated that he couldn't because he was paraplegic. Officers then offered to assist Mr. Owensby in getting out of the vehicle, to which he refused. Owensby asked for a supervisor to respond to the scene and continued to refuse commands or assistance from the officers to get out of the vehicle. As the officers began to remove him from the vehicle, Owensby grabbed onto the steering wheel of the car in an attempt to prevent the officers from removing him from the motor vehicle. He was then forcibly removed from the vehicle. Officers then placed Owensby on the ground in order to secure him. Officers had to then pull his arms behind his back in order to handcuff him. There was also an unrestrained 3-year-old child in the backseat of the vehicle who was later removed by an officer. After being handcuffed, Owensby was then taken to a local hospital where he was examined and released. A large bag of cash was also found in the front floorboard of the vehicle, containing $22,450 in U.S. currency. The Narcotics Bureau Canine also alerted on that money, meaning that the money had been in close proximity to illegal drugs. You're about to view body-worn camera from the officers involved. The footage contains strong language, so viewer discretion is advised.
All right, let me stop this real quick before we get into it. So we got a call for service, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that this was reported as a suspected drug house by community members in that community. That's why officers were doing, if you want to say, special enforcement in that particular area, watching that house. That's a common thing that police will do when the community reports that they might have a drug house in their neighborhood. The way you do that is it starts with officers on patrol. A lot of times we will try to look at that house to see who's coming and going. When we see vehicles leaving that particular house, we will try to do traffic stops on that vehicle to identify the occupants of the vehicle. Legal traffic stops, stopping them for a reason, and investigate. Remember how we used to talk, Corey, earlier? We used to talk about how a traffic stop is more than just a traffic enforcement violation. It's also a little investigation. And in this case, that's what these officers were doing. They were making a stop on a guy who was leaving a suspected drug house, and which is what they should be doing. That is part of their job, and that is something that the community should understand, that this wasn't just some, random stop that they're picking on a particular guy because he's black. You see what I'm saying? They were doing a legitimate traffic stop on a vehicle that was leaving a reported drug house in a community.
Right. So, all right. Now, the next part here is just them stopping the vehicle and talking with them a little bit. I'll let it play out, then I'll fast forward right to the meat and potatoes of this video.
Okay.
So we get talking about it. So I'll let this play so you kind of get a gist of the traffic stop. So right now, body cameras and the cameras in the car always activate before you actually make the contact. Like there was always like a 2 minutes, I think it was 2 minutes of capturing video before we even actually turn on our light bar. So you always capture those few minutes before the actual traffic stop.
Yeah. And our body cameras, it was a 30-second window. Once you hit the button on the body camera, it was a 30-second window that you didn't hear anything. So the audio didn't kick in until 30 seconds after you hit the button. But the video does show.
Right. And so right now I would be gathering that see, there's your sirens. There's going to be a little bit of an echo in there too. So it's not from us. So the other officer is already on the other side, actually making contact with him.
And for the citizens who don't know, this is actually a proper way to do a traffic stop. It's normal to have two officers, one officer that makes initial contact, and the other officer who acts as a cover officer, who stands and watches the vehicle. That's common practice that most officers are trained to do traffic stops at.
Thank you for sharing, Megan. Share this out, y'all. All right, so now he's calibrating his tent meter. I know some of y'all have seen that before. He's checking the meter to make sure it's calibrating, it's reading properly. So it looks as though they might have stopped him for 10. See, they still have to have probable cause in order to initiate the traffic stop. So I'm assuming that's what it was for.
Window down. Just get stopped. Flip some. Once more. Right there. This window's at 20%. How old your kid in the back? My kid. How old is the kid? 3. How come the kid's not in the car seat? Down the street. So name again? I'm Emmett. Yep, that's right.
Let me know you want to stop it, Mike.
Okay, well, we good. That's a handy tool about the window tint, though. I haven't seen that before.
Oh, that's what we had.
We don't have those out here. We didn't have those.
Mine was just a little bit bigger. All right, so I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, Mike.
Okay.
I'm gonna get right to the action.
So keep in mind, folks, they're doing a records check on him. They do find out that he's got a history of both felony drug and weapons violations.
All right, here we go, y'all.
What's your name again? Owensby. Owensby. Yeah, I'm not still. I can't step out the car, sir. What you got for me? I got help. Well, I'll help you getting out. I'm gonna help you getting up, get out. I'm gonna help you getting up, get out. Well, I don't think that's gonna happen, sir.
Pause for a second.
I'm asking you, but I'm telling you.
Okay. So at this point, you know, just so our citizens understand what's going on, the officers already stopped him after he was leaving a suspected drug house that was reported by the community. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They've already ran him in the system, and they know that he's got priors for both weapons and drug violations. Okay. So they decided that they're going to do a drug sniff of the car with a dog, a canine. Okay. They need him to get out of the car at this point, obviously, because they're going to do a drug sniff around the car. They don't want you in the car for safety reasons, you know. So they need him to step out. Now, as we can see here, he tells them that he's paralyzed, he's a paraplegic, and he can't get out of the car. Okay. So the officer says, okay, we can help you out of the car. That's not a problem. We can do what you need to do to help you exit the car, but we need you to get out of the car. That's not a question. That's not a request. That's a command. We need you to get out of the car. Okay. Now, he throws in, Corey, well, I can't get out of the car. I'm paralyzed. Okay. Again, we can help you, but I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. So for our citizens,
now 3 times he said that now, Mike.
Yeah, right.
3 times.
Now, for a citizen, what I'm curious to know from some of our viewers at this point, you have to get him out of the car. You're in that position that this officer is in. What are you going to do? What would you do as a citizen? What do you think is reasonable here? You have in front of you clear incidents where you need to do a drug sniff of this car. You have enough details that support your reasoning for wanting to do a drug sniff of this car, right? So you need him to get out of the car and he refuses. At some point, you're going to have to put your hands on him and force him out of the car, right? If he continues to refuse to get out of the car, you're going to have to force him to get out of that car, okay? I want our citizens to be thinking along those lines to see how far would they go before they put hands on and actually have to force them out of the car. What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I mean, you can't use, and this is where, like we said in the beginning of the show, some people are going to disagree with what we're going to say. But at the same time, you cannot use your disability as a reason you cannot get up out that car. The officer is going to do their part to safely get you out of the car. Now, all that changes once he starts this already combative, I'm not getting out. I'm not doing this. Well, you can't get out because I can't get out because I'm a paraplegic. Well, how'd you get your behind in the car?
Right.
See what I'm saying? That's not an excuse. It's equipped for you to drive. So obviously you getting in and out of that car. So you try and tell me that 3-year-old that you don't have security in the back seat is helping you get in and out of that vehicle? I don't think so. You getting in and out of that vehicle yourself. So for you to sit here and try to tell the officer that you can't get out that vehicle, now it sounds to me like you're refusing.
Yeah, right? I agree. I mean, you get in and out of that vehicle every day.
You're getting in and out of it every day, right? Now, we're gonna continue on because I don't want to jump ahead of myself. So we'll go ahead and we'll keep it moving.
Okay.
It's like can I ask you what's the problem? And the problem is that because our history of my dog be out here on the car. You have to be out of the car.
I can't get out of the vehicle, sir.
I'm going to assist you.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not going to touch me. And I'm definitely not about to touch me. And I'm about to go ahead and get somebody on the line because I will. It will be a lawsuit if you put your hands on me for no reason, bro.
Well, the reason is that I'm asking
No. Clearly, he just told him the reason.
That's right.
Hold on.
I cannot step out.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just saying this driver says you can't put your hands on me for no reason. Well, I'm already explaining to you the reason. That's because I'm going ready to do a drug sniff on your car and I need you to get out of the car. Now, he may not agree with that reason, right, folks? He may not agree with that, but that's beside the point. What do we talk about in our C.A.L.M acronym? Comply, answer questions, listen, move on. First thing is comply. You have to get out of the vehicle on a traffic stop at the officer's command. You do not have a choice to stay in the vehicle once the officer gives you an order to exit the vehicle.
Right.
Okay. For any situation, any circumstances, you cannot refuse to get out of your vehicle once an officer gives you a command to do so. Okay. So let's put that out there right out the gate. You have to get out of the car. And the fact that he's paralyzed does not change that situation.
No.
Not in this case.
Not in this case.
where as an officer, if you tell me you paralyzed, it may not be that big of a deal for me to get you out of the car, and I might change my mind and say, okay, well, I'm gonna just do what I need to do with you sitting right here. That's not the case in this situation, though. Okay,
Right.
You got anything, Corey?
No, we're good. We're good. We're keeping moving. My part is coming up.
Okay.
I cannot. I'm a paraplegic, sir. Come on, bro. I cannot step out of the car. I cannot step out of the vehicle.
You got in the car. You can get out of the car. You got in the car.
Hello. Hey, bro. Can you come
We
down the street
apologize
to
for all the feedback you get
Ferguson
there.
and Grand? The police just pulled me over and they trying to make me get out the car, and I'm telling them I'm a paraplegic. I can't get out the car without no help and shit. These motherfuckers trying to fucking, they on some bullshit. Just come down the street, bring some people with cameras. Come down the street, come bring cameras and bring somebody so they can witness what's going on. I'm not getting out. I just told you I'm a paraplegic. I cannot get out.
I do not have to. I do not have to.
Can you call your white shirt, please? If you pull me out of here, you better expect me.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna pull you out and then I'll call a white shirt because you're getting out of the car. That's not an option. You're getting out of this car.
All right.
So you can cooperate and get out of the car.
See, this is what we have to understand, folks, and this is what we need you to share with every young person that you know, family member, friends, whoever, co-workers. At this point is not the time to be combative verbally with the police officer, because we're not going to sit here and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm telling you to do something. Remember the acronym C.A.L.M. You need to be compliant right now. You need to listen to what I'm telling you, what you need to do, right? Because at some point, I have to do my job. You are not listening to me. You're coming out of that vehicle, right? And this, like I said in the beginning, some of y'all not going to like that because he's paraplegic. You know what? You got to put your emotions to the side, right? You got to put your emotion to the side and understand that the officers have a job to do. And they cannot do the job if he's going to sit here and play this, well, I'm a paraplegic, so I can't do nothing. You ain't going to do nothing to me. Now, all that went out the window because you got in that driver's seat some way or another. That 3-year-old didn't help you get into that car, right? You're coming from, now keep in mind where this gentleman is coming from, and that this was a call for service, right? So this is part of policing. This is what officers have to do. This is how we keeping the streets safe. This is how we keeping the drugs off the streets, right? I'm gonna just say this, and Mike and I talked about this before the show. Sometimes arrest of non-compliance citizens is not pretty. Arrests are not pretty. Now, we would love for them to be textbook and everybody's compliant. We can put handcuffs on you. We can get you out the car securely, but they don't work that way. And I would say 99%, 98% of the time, most people do what they're supposed to do when we ask them to get out of the vehicle. It's that 2%, which is what this gentleman right here is making it bad for everyone. And this right here, and these officers are white, but I tell you what, if I were there and as a reasonable officer, I'm not going to sit here and go back and forth with you, talking you out of the vehicle. I'm going to assist you in getting you out. Now, we'll critique, the methods and everything here in a little bit, but now I hope that you can all see how important it is that we utilize the acronym C.A.L.M. Comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. He's going to move on, but it's not the way that, he's going to want it to be.
Yeah, I agree. Non-compliance is the start of opening that, like we always say, Corey. Non-compliance is opening that door to the possibility of something way worse happening that doesn't need to be. You see what I'm saying? All officers aren't the same. All officers don't have the same patience with someone who is non-compliant. Key word, non-compliant. If this gentleman was compliant and say, yeah, okay, I'm paralyzed. I understand you need me to get out of the car. This is what I need to get out of the car. I don't have a problem with that. And if you can help me get out of the car, whatever I need to do, I'll get out of the car. None of this would have happened. This would have been, who knows? This would have been, he could have been on his car and on his way down the road. We don't know. You see what I'm saying?
Don't know.
When this is over. But because he chose to refuse to get out of the car, which is a lawful command by an officer, and he chose to refuse that changes this into something completely different. It caused, at some point, you got to put your hands on him now because you need him to get out of the car. And if he's refusing, well, he's making these officers now have to physically force him to get out of this car.
Yeah.
That's what you never want to do. You never want to do that, people. You never want an officer to physically have to force you to get out of the car or do anything that they are ordering you to do. Okay.
And also too, Zach makes a good point. He says he is paralyzed, so it's a unique situation, but he has priors. And you're exactly right, Zach. And I think because of that, he's trying to instigate the situation more than what it has to be. And clearly, I think he has an agenda that he's trying to achieve himself by being so resistant the way he is. He's already telling, well, you touch me, I'm suing you.
Yeah.
Right?
You very well could be right, Corey. He could have another agenda here, which in these times and ages, you have to consider that now. You see what he's saying, everything, all the words that would point to him trying to get a settlement from the city to sue somebody or whatever. You put your hands on me, I'm suing. You better get your supervisor here. Okay. Now, the only thing I might have done differently is maybe in these times and ages, back then I would have grabbed him. I would have grabbed him before calling the supervisor. But maybe at this time, I would have called a supervisor to come out if it was readily available for me to do so. That wouldn't have changed what I'm about to do. At some point, I still would have had to physically force you out of the car if you were non-compliant, right? Supervisor or not. You see what I'm saying? Now, I would have called the supervisor there because I want the supervisor to see what I'm about to do. You see what I'm saying? Witness what I'm about to do and witness what's going on here. I know I got my body camera on. These officers know they have their body cameras on, so they're documenting and recording everything they're doing. They're not, so it's clear that we can squash anything about the officers having no reason to stop this guy. We've already established that.
We already established that, right?
They have every reason to stop this guy who's leaving a suspected drug house. They stopped him as they should do. Who's leaving that house to investigate him? What's he doing in this house? You see what I'm saying? Yeah, they stopped him for tinted windows. Easy to find a vehicle code violation to stop someone for. Okay, but they are also stopping him to find out who he is and what he's doing leaving this house. Okay, and for folks who don't know, that's a common call a lot of times in police departments where the community members will call if they suspect a drug house. And this is part of the tactics that police use to develop enough probable cause to write a search warrant to get into that house and find out what's going on. Okay, that's how it works, folks. That is police work. That's how it's supposed to be done. Right. Now, this guy refusing to get out, that's going to turn this all bad.
And Zach says that he also called someone, told him to bring cameras, and like he said, that'd have been game over for him. And Zach, I mean, you clearly, like I say, he had an agenda, and get cameras here. Yeah, this is what we're gonna do. I'm finna get paid. That's all he's thinking about right now. He's about to get paid, and so wrong intention, and it didn't have to be this way. So, all right, we're gonna keep it moving here and get to the good part.
All right.
I'll drag you out of the car. You see your two options here?
I know I got right. I would like you to call your wife, sir.
I will. Yellow card.
Come on, bro.
Yellow card. Yellow card.
Listen,
Yellow card.
I am paraplegic, bro. You can fucking hurt me.
Yellow card.
You can hurt me, bro.
Yellow card. Yellow
What
card.
are y'all doing, bro?
Dude, you're making this
I'm a paraplegic, bro. I'm trying to tell you that I got help getting in the car. Y'all can fucking hurt me. You can hurt me.
Get out of the car.
Damn, bro. I'm a paraplegic. Ow.
You have to use the yellow card.
Ow.
Yellow card.
Somebody help. Somebody help.
Right here.
Somebody help. Somebody help. Someone help. So are y'all recording this? Somebody help. I'm a paraplegic. They are doing the hurt to me. Somebody please help me. Stop. Stop. You are hurting me. What are you talking about? I'm a fucking paraplegic. Stop. Stop. I'm a paraplegic. Stop. I'm a paraplegic. Stop.
Make this worse than these
I'm a paraplegic. I gave y'all everything.
That's fine.
I gave y'all everything y'all asked for.
Cooperate.
Can y'all call
Do
the
not
white
cooperate.
Can y'all call the real police, please?
All the real police. What does he mean by that? That there's a lot of drama going on. I think that's all for the cameras, that he's throwing all this drama about help. Somebody please help. I'm a paraplegic. We know all of that. If it was that serious, you should have just got out of the car. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Right. And then he throws in there, you know, I gave you everything you asked for. No, you ain't complying. We asked you to get out of the vehicle.
Right.
And you're not getting out. Now, don't go overboard with that. What that means is they was going to assist him out of that vehicle. He made the choice and the decision not to do it. So who's at fault here? Now, let's talk about the not so pretty scene here, right? Pulling him out of the vehicle, right? Did you guys see?
Not pretty.
Did you see? We'll answer that question here in a second, Zach. Did you see the officer pull him by the braids? What did you think about that? Was that necessary or was that uncalled for? What do you think? They pulled him out by his dreads. Did you also pay attention to his right hand holding on to the steering wheel? Right?
Yeah, he was trying to stay in that vehicle. He did not want to be removed from that vehicle.
He did not want to be removed from that vehicle. So, you know, what does that look like? What would you have done? Were the actions of these officers, is it what a reasonable officer would have done? Mike, would you have done it that way?
You know, well, I would have had to physically get him out of the car. I don't have a problem with how they got him out of the car, because once you force me to physically remove you, I'm not going to be delicate with it. I have to use force. We're talking about using force here. You see what I'm saying? That is not going to be pretty. And them grabbing him by the ponytail, or he kind of had his dreads pulled back into like a ponytail. I think that was the first thing that officer probably had that he could grab a hold of that was solid to get him to release grip of that steering wheel. You see what I'm saying? Did it look pretty? Of course not. Most citizens who don't deal with this kind of stuff would think that that's an ugly way to pull somebody out of the car. I think most citizens who look at this video, all the extra stuff that led up to them contacting him in the first place went out the window to most citizens. You see what I'm saying? I think most citizens will look at this video and just say, these big bad cops are harassing this black man in a car. He was paralyzed. He can't get out of the car, but y'all ordering him out of the car. Well, yeah, just because you paralyzed is not a license for you to say, I ain't getting out of this car. Well, keep in mind, folks, he's driving. He commonly drives. He commonly gets himself in and out of that vehicle probably every day. Okay. And who knows, he was able to get into that car and drive to that suspected drug house and leave that suspected drug house, getting back into that car on his own. So my question is, what was the big thing about him refusing to get out of the car? Why did he did not want to get out of the car? Was there something in that car he didn't want officers to find? Did he have something in there that was illegal that he didn't want to see or something? You see what I'm saying?
There you go. That's a good question. What was in that car? Oh, what was it? $22,000 or $23,000 in that car.
Right. There was
$23,000 cash. I think it was like $22,400. Actually, I think it was
$22,400 in cash and a bag on the floorboard. Okay, listen, folks. We all got common sense. Most people don't drive around with $20,000 in cash on the floorboard of your car, leaving a suspected drug house when you have a history of felony weapons and drug violations. So you tell me what you think he was doing in the first place. So it's not like this is not the person these officers should have been stopping. You see what I'm saying? They had every reason to point toward him being a target for somebody who needed to be stopped and investigated. Okay. And they stopped him for a lawful reason. Even if I stop you, let me do a little side note here. What is legal is I can stop you if I suspect you are involved in a crime, right? I don't have to prove you involved in a crime before I stop you. I can stop you to investigate whether or not you are involved in a crime. To do that, I have to have a reason to stop you that is in like a vehicle code, some kind of law violation. So let's say this guy, in this case, he had tinted windows. Lawful violation to pull somebody over for. Now, these officers pulled him over for that, but obviously it is their intent to not just to worry about some tinted windows. Their real reason was to figure out who this guy was and where he was coming from, to see if they can do a search around his vehicle to see if there's anything illegal in his car. You see what I'm saying? The investigation was taking place. Why did they feel that way? Because once again, folks, he was leaving a suspected drug house that the community members reported and wanted the police to do something about. Okay. Right. And that you gotta look at the totality of the circumstances.
There you go.
It's not just some black guy rolling down the street and officers decide to randomly stop him and we just want to search his vehicle for no reason. That's not the case here. That's not what was going on here.
Right.
Okay. I don't care what color he was. If this dude was a white dude, I would have stopped him the same way. And once I found out he had a history of weapons and drug violations, I would have wanted to do a search of his car too after I saw him leaving the drug house. I don't care what color he was.
And clearly now, you see that once they found that money, that large sum of money, that was his reasoning for not wanting to get out of that vehicle. Usually, people do that. Either they have a weapon on them, or there's money, or there's drugs. There's a reason why they don't want to get out of that vehicle. Because any reasonable citizen who has nothing to hide would get out of the vehicle.
Right.
And that's what, puts up the red flags for officers. Like, okay, yeah, it's gonna go south now. Now, I was reading in one of the news articles, some of the comments, some of the folks in there were saying, and they were saying, oh, they had to pull him out of the car like that because he's a paraplegic. That's just, wrong. They should have called paramedics and had the paramedics come and get him out the car, put him on a backboard. Listen, no, that's wrong. Because first of all, it's not a medical emergency. So we're not going to waste your taxpayer money to have rescue come out to get this guy out of the car. It's not a medical emergency. He's not hurt. Second of all, which is actually the most important, officers are responsible for the scene, the safety of everybody on that scene. It didn't look pretty how they got him out of the car, but guess what? They're still responsible for his safety, right? If I call the paramedics, see, we don't know what's in the car, right? I call the paramedics to come get him out of the vehicle, and the paramedics reach in there, that vehicle, to assist him out of that vehicle, and he pulls a knife and stabs that paramedic, that EMT, or he pulls a gun and shoots that EMT, or he grabs that EMT, pulls him in the car, and drives off with him. Who you think is going to be responsible for those actions happening? That officer. He's
That's
on the
right.
scene. He's responsible, right? So no, we're not going to call rescue to the scene.
No, a paramedic's job is not to use force on someone in place of a police officer. Keep that in mind. If somebody's refusing to get out of the car because his reasoning is he's paralyzed, we don't use paramedics or non-sworn personnel to force you out of the car. That's not how that works. You know, so don't think because he's paralyzed that is the kind of medical issue that he needs immediate medical attention for. You see what I'm saying? All that screaming and yelling, that was dramatics, is what it looked like.
That was all dramatic.
He was being dramatic. He wanted to set himself up real nice so he can file his suit with the city. You see what I'm saying? And get paid. And he may get paid. Okay, he may. A lot of times these cities will settle because it ain't worth going to court or worth fighting, and they'll just pay you out. You see what I'm saying? Unfortunately, that's how it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't care what happens to these officers. If an investigation in this agency is being done on this particular incident, if they find some department policy that these officers may have violated, okay, fine, all right. I'm not even going to touch that. I'm just looking at what's in front of me, and can I look at this as a prior officer, right? And can I say that these officers did something that they should not have done? You see what I'm saying? And I really can't say that in these situations up to this point. You know, they tried to get him out of the car peacefully. You paralyzed? Okay, we'll help you. He said that like 3 times, I think. We can help you get out of the car.
Yeah.
But I
said it several times.
Get out of the car. And who knows? This guy could have been the biggest drug dealer, okay, with and he's paralyzed, and he probably used his paralyzed or paralysis, if you will. He probably uses that thinking that the cops are going to let him go, or they're not going to search him, or they're not going to do the same things to him. So he probably uses that as a crutch and leans on that and acts like that's going to protect him from something.
Right.
And one more thing, Corey, you know, you might have some citizens to say, well, he just had a bag of cash in their car. It wasn't drugs. You know, that's not illegal. Although it's not normal, it's not illegal to have a bag of $22,000 cash in your car. It's not illegal. No, it's not. But if you didn't catch the part where when they had the K9 do the sniff, they locked in on the bag of cash. That's because the bag of cash was recently around controlled substances. The residue of the controlled substances was in close proximity to that cash. That's why the dog locked onto that. So if you don't know, obviously dogs have a really sensitive smell. You know, that's why we use them for sniffing out drugs, right? And they can smell the tiniest hint of drugs. And if you had something that was close to drugs or something like that, they're gonna pick up on that. And that's what happened.
Yeah, this was what they call an air search. So basically, they did not have probable cause to get inside the vehicle. So what they do is just use the dog to do an alert around the vehicle. And if it's in the front seat, they'll lay down or put a paw where that hit is. And then now, okay, he alerted to something in there. Now we got reason to go inside a vehicle and see what the dog hit on. And it, like Mike just said, in this instance here, it happened to be that large sum of money, right? So I like to hear from you guys. We like to hear from you guys and tell us how you would have removed this individual out of the vehicle. Would you have called the paramedics to come get him out? If so, why? And just like we had just laid out, you know, that would have been a good idea to do. So if somebody, whether they're paraplegic or not, once they start being verbally combative with you and refusing to get out, how long are you going to sit there and go back and forth with this citizen? Now, they always say time is on our hands, right, for the law enforcement.
But
But
I ain't
however,
all evening
right,
just from trying to get you out of the car. You see what I'm saying?
right. But however, we got a job to do, and it needs to be get done expeditiously. We're not going. I'm not going to spend my whole 8-hour shift going back and forth with you. No, that's not going to happen. So we're going to get you out of the vehicle. And like I said before, arrests aren't pretty for non-compliant citizens. They just aren't pretty. When you become combative like that and being refusing and not listening, paying attention to the acronym of CALM, complying, answer questions, listening, moving on, you're coming out of that car and it's not going to be pretty. You know, there have been times where I had to snatch people out and pull them out through the window because you don't want to get out that car. You're being very, verbally abusive and you're just being out of control. You're coming out of that car. And if you have to come through the window to get out, guess what? You coming through the window.
Yeah.
It's just those type of things we can't tolerate. Law enforcement, we don't have that kind of time. Well, time is on his eye, but we don't have. There's too much other stuff going on. You could have said, well, he was wanting to get let go anyways. I mean, he was trying to use this as woe is me, I believe, and try to get out of this ticket or whatever he was going. Now, if he'd just complied, answer questions, listen, and move on, yeah, I think he still would have got questioned about the money. And if the dog hit on it, I mean, they would probably, I don't know if they would have took the money or what they would have done as loss on money. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on that. But he could have got a couple citations for the tent and the child restraint and moved on. But he did get to move on. He ended up going to jail. Zach says, LOL, he's already paralyzed. So the injury already happened prior. He had to be removed. They went back and forth 5 or 6 times. They did what they had to do, in my opinion. I agree with you, Zach.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And we can't stress that enough. Anytime you put an officer in a situation where he or she now feels that they have to physically put their hands on you, that's already bad. I mean, and we've discussed this already about what led up to this. So I think the only point where people will have an argument on is their method for removing him from the car, or whether or not they should have removed him from the car at all. You see what I'm saying?
We had a good question here, Mike, from Jimmy. Mm-hmm. When he resisted, wouldn't that give them probable cause to search the vehicle? No. That would not be probable cause. Now, there's a catch-22 to that. There is a catch-22 to that. Now I've got you out of the car, and now I know I'm going to be arresting you.
Oh, okay, that's different. Yeah, there you go.
Now I know I'm going to be arresting you. Uh-huh. Your vehicle now has to be towed and stowed at a tow company. So I have to inventory everything in that vehicle. So if you find drugs in there during your inventory, because you have to document everything in there, because once it goes to the tow company, if it gets damaged there, it's a way for the officers to protect themselves, to say that, I had this $22,000 in the car. Guess where that $22,000 of car going now? That $22,000 is going back to the evidence locker and being locked up until they determine otherwise, the courts determine otherwise, or the district attorney really determines what's going to happen. What's the next move?
That's a great question, Jimmy. If we call that out here in California, we call that incident to arrest, a search incident to arrest. So if I've arrested you, now you're in my custody, and I can search you, your pockets, everything around you, on you, in you, all that stuff. I can search your vehicle. Now, out in California, the vehicle, like Corey was saying, we do an inventory search if we're going to tow it, right? Or we can search that vehicle if we're going to basically take possession of that vehicle, right? Because the driver is arrested, and now we have to do something with this vehicle. Now, the part that gets a little tricky is if you have a vehicle, like say in a parking lot or commercial parking lot, or something like that, where the vehicle is not a hazard. It's no longer, it's not out on the road. If you left that vehicle in its current position, it's not a hazard to anyone. It's not, it's not creating anything extra that we need to worry about. It's the same as if you would have parked it in that parking space and you came back to get it later. Now, if we're not going to tow the vehicle or not going to basically take possession of that vehicle, we wouldn't search it. You see what I'm saying? There's some case law that came out about that some time ago, and I apologize. I don't have that information in front of me, and I'm going off the top of my head here. But unless you are going to take possession of that car, we wouldn't search that car if we're just going to leave it parked. We're going to secure it, make sure that it's secured to the best we can. But if there's no reason to tow it, like it's in the roadway or it's on the highway or it's in a dangerous spot to where somebody could hit it or something like that, or if it's in, let's say, a high crime area where vehicles have been getting broken into, we might use that as a reason to tow it. Maybe, maybe not. You know what I'm saying? Again, that's a gray area. It's open. So you just got to be careful in that. But that's a great question, Jimmy.
Yeah, great question, Jimmy. Thank you so much. So let us know what you think about this video, you guys. Did these officers act reasonably? Leave us a comment down below. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Share this out with all your friends and family. And let's talk about this acronym C.A.L.M here real quick before we end this broadcast, right? Was he the first letter, calm or comply? Was he being compliant? No. Was he answering any of their questions? No.
To some degree.
Yeah. Was he listening? No.
No, he wasn't listening to.
No. He wasn't listening. No. And finally, move on. Yeah, he got to move on, but
not in the best way.
Not in the best way. He going to jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can Monday morning quarterback this, from now to eternity. But in my humble opinion, I would have to say that these officers were right for what they did.
Yeah, I would have to agree that as a reasonable officer, I don't see anything here that would have really shocked my conscience. But keep in mind, the average citizen, just the fact that this guy is paralyzed, that would shock their conscience that police physically pulled him out of the car. Just that alone, no matter what you say, a citizen, I think, some citizens, not all, we know Zach wouldn't think that way.
Yeah.
Some citizens would, just that alone would feel that is excessive and too much.
Yeah.
And that's where the balancing is. But I at least like to point out, as we did, we at least like to show you the totality of the circumstances, right? Before you decide whether that's excessive. And if you think that's excessive, again, what would you have done? How would you have gotten that guy out of the car physically when he's resisting you and he's holding on to the steering wheel and he's refusing to get out of the car? F you, F that, I ain't getting out of this car. What would you have done? Now, could you see in this video that maybe these officers got the emotions going? They were starting to get a little irritated with this guy. You can hear that. Sure. Officers are humans too. They're people too. So yeah, you piss them off too. Okay. If I'm telling you I need you to do something and you making my job harder by saying F you, I ain't doing it, well, you might get a little emotional reaction from some officers when you do that. But just, again, comply. Always comply. The biggest thing we need to stress is comply. And we don't want these young men and women out here today thinking that if an officer gives them an order that they don't agree with, that they can refuse to do it. Right. That is the wrong message. It doesn't matter if that order, if you feel that order is not legal, if you feel that order that officer is telling you to do something that you don't believe he or she can legally have you do, you are much safer to do it and comply. And when you don't agree with something, you fight it in court. Take them to court. Right. Sue the city. Okay, so cities get sued all the time. Sue the city for wrongful arrest. Okay, do it that way. That is how you handle something like that. But on the street, once an officer gives, if I'm an officer and I give you a command, I've already made up my mind that what I'm getting ready to do is legal, and ain't nothing you're going to say that's going to change what I'm getting ready to do. If I need to get you out of the car, I'm gonna get you out of the car either physically or not. I prefer not physically. I prefer you just go and get out of the car. You see what I'm saying? I prefer you comply and just do what I'm telling you to do. That way no one gets hurt, ain't no struggle, no fighting. And I'm just going to, if you don't agree with me, fine, you can argue with me in court. You see what I'm saying?
Thank you, Zach. Yeah, Zach says, crazy video, guys. Good show. Thank you. Also, a basic citizen doesn't want to see the whole truth. And then he asked the question, what about the 3-year-old? Shameful. Yeah, you had total disrespect for the 3-year-old. That wasn't even his, in the backseat unrestrained. Now, that right there is always a burner for me. Because I had to watch 2 young girls die a few years ago because the woman didn't strap the kids in the car, and it was Labor Day on a Monday, and they were getting ready to start school on Tuesday. 5 and I think 8 they were, and because they weren't properly restrained in the vehicle, and that was probably one of the hardest things I had to watch on the side of the roads, watch these little girls die. I mean, it was nothing we can do about that. So he definitely would have got every child restraint ticket I could give him right then and there for that. So again, we
that 3-year-old, as people don't, I think we got this question in one of the last videos that we had done. What do the officers do with these 3-year-olds when we arrest the person who's supposed to be in charge of them? What do we do with the kid? And in this case, we would have had to take custody of that 3-year-old and place him or her into a child care facility, or preferably the first option we'll go to as an officer is we'll contact the family member, see if that family member can come down and care for this child. Okay.
Well, so one of them probably showed up.
yeah, that has to happen.
One of them probably showed up to the scene as he was making that phone call for everybody to come down there with their cell phone, with cameras to record him. So yeah, somebody got that child. But yeah, I think that was 2 weeks ago when we talked about the Pearland Police Department and that lady in the school zone. So please like, share, and subscribe to us, folks. Share this out wide and far so we can get into the YouTube algorithm. If you're watching on Facebook, please take a second to jump over on YouTube and hit the like button over there as well for us. We thank you for listening to us tonight. We hope that you all got something out of this and at least be able to start the conversation, because this hasn't hit nationwide yet. I haven't really seen it on any major news outlets yet. So when it does, at least now you have an insight. Okay, well, let's look at this, and this before everybody just, jumps off the deep end and want to start, rioting and destroying your own neighborhoods. That's,
the only headlines I have seen just on YouTube was they're all headlines just to grab your attention, to get you to think about it, as they all just say cops pull paraplegic from his car. You see what I'm saying? And they don't go into the details of what led up to that and why that happened. They never do on the media, right? They only just tell you something that's going to shock your conscience and going to make you already emotional about the situation,
Right.
up in arms about the cops did something wrong. And
Right.
again, hey, if the cops did something wrong that I saw, I ain't got no problem telling you that. You see what I'm saying?
No problem whatsoever.
In this case, I don't care what happens at this point on. If they did violate some department policy, that's on that particular agency, and that's what they chose to get them on. That's fine. Okay, whatever. But I'm just telling you from my point of view, what I see in that video, it is what it is, all because of a non-compliant person.
Yep. This is why it's important to comply, answer questions, and listen so you can move on, staying calm. So, Tone, we ain't gonna forget about you, man. Look here, Tone. Once again, the media only shows partial video. The average citizen doesn't know what's going on, like watching a movie starting in the middle of a scene. Never knew he was at a drug house. Yep, exactly right.
There you go, Tone. All those details. I'm glad you able to watch us, and thanks for tuning in there, Tone. We see you.
Yeah, we see you. So thank you everybody for checking us out tonight. Remember, go ahead on over on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, hit that like button for us. Share it out over there as well. Share it out on Facebook, and we will see y'all next week. I think next week we got a actual really good video where the guy was textbook. The next week video is exactly how we would love traffic stops to go. Right. And we're going to talk about it, and you'll see how the acronym plays out, and you'll see the difference. And if it could be like that, we all be good.
Thanks, Megan.
So,
thanks,
Megan. Yes,
thanks,
we're already done. Thanks, Joe.
Coach.
Appreciate it, Joe.
Right.
I'll be hollering at y'all tomorrow, Joe. So stay tuned.
All right. Peace out.
All right, everybody. Take care. God bless you. We love you. And peace.